This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our spring breakfast, the North Haven Economic Development Commission spring breakfast. And thank you so much for coming. It's great to see you all here today on this spring day. Appreciate it for a couple days until Sunday, but we'll get past it at some point. I'd like to start by introducing the other members of the commission. And if you can't hear me, please raise your hand in the back, and we'll have them up the volume a little bit. So first off, I'd like to recognize Walter Mann, our vice chair, Frank Mars, our secretary, Rod Prasad, Deb Moore, Steve Gifford, I'm not sure if he's here, and Alan Sturtz. We were expecting our state rep and state senator, but they have some business up in Hartford this morning, so they weren't able to make it. But I would also like to recognize our department heads for the town of North Haven, our police chief, Tom McLaughlin, our fire chief, I haven't seen, Paul Januszewski, director of finance, Ed Swinkowski is here, director of field operations, Victor Palma, director of public works, Lynn Sadowski, and the director of library services, Pat Laturza. Also, be remiss if I don't recognize our second selectman, Bill Piper. He's in the audience. And our third select person, Sally Blamey. She's here as well. So, with those out of the way, so I would like now, without further ado, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Garrett Sheehan. Garrett Sheehan, for those who may not know, has recently been appointed as the new president and CEO of the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce and the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. And Garrett, if you come up and tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the upcoming events at the chambers, both chambers.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Well, good morning, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for Selectman Mike Frieda for having me here at the Economic Development Commission here in North Haven. It's been a busy but fun first 6 weeks on the job for me. I've got big shoes to fill. I'm taking over for North Haven's own Tony Resigno, and Tony's been a great help as I've gotten started as well. I feel at home being here at an economic development event and being in North Haven. The opportunity to do economic development is what attracted me to the job at the Chamber, and I believe it's why the Chamber was interested in me. I'm from Connecticut. I grew up just the road here in Middlefield, and my first job was as a television news reporter, and that took me to the Deep South. But while I was there, that's where I first found my interest in economic development. Nissan had just opened a major assembly plant, and the big story in Mississippi where I was working was, why can't we get any of these suppliers to locate here? That set me off into the field of economic development and learning that communities are always competing against each other, trying to attain jobs that are out there, and usually only a few companies that are searching for major expansions each year. I decided I wanted to get into the field. It was a great place to learn being in the South, because in the South they're very competitive and aggressive about economic development. They've had a history of the textile industry leaving, so they were desperate and they needed to get jobs, and that spirit of always being competitive and competing against other communities is something that they've built upon over the years, and I think something that we can model on here in Connecticut and the Northeast. After putting in some years in economic development in the South, I had a great opportunity to come back to UI, or to come to UI and come back to Connecticut and do economic development here. It was a great experience working in this region. I had the opportunity to work with Richard, and I have to tell you, Richard is always working on economic development in North Haven. When we were at UI, I would have to sometimes tell him, you know, Richard, we're working for economic development in the entire UI service territory, not just North Haven. But he always is a consummate professional and consummately trying to improve the economic development here in North Haven. I also had a great opportunity to get to know First Selectman Mike Frieda, and I think this Amazon project epitomizes the efforts that Mike has led since he's been First Selectman. Just a quick story I can tell you. It was 5 years ago. I was out at the Pratt & Whitney site working at UI. Richard and I were out there. Mike was there. There was a prospect coming through. You know, that prospect didn't end up landing there, but that's what happens in economic development. It's a marathon. You have a lot of prospects that come through, and for whatever reason, they choose a different site that's more suited for their business. But what happens a lot of times is you see communities get down after they lose out on a project. But what I've seen in North Haven is that you continue to build. It's been a long-term project of citing someone at that Pratt & Whitney site at least 8 years back, and I know Mike's been working on that, and the Economic Development Commission, and it's a true testament to them. It's a marathon. They kept working at it. They kept working on it until they landed something, and now you have a world-class company locating here in North Haven, and that's really a true success story in economic development. Just will say about my new role in the chamber, I'm excited to start doing economic development. We've been doing economic development, but it's definitely a focus for me. I often say to folks that economic development is a team sport. There's plenty of work to go around, and that as long as we're all working in the same direction, we will be successful. I've had the great opportunity to work now with the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce and the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. I know we have some of our board members here, Tom Curtin from Olbrook, who is our chairperson for the Quinnipiac Chamber, and Dee Nesty, who couldn't be here with us this morning, but sends her regards. She has one of her daughters getting married this weekend. I will just say about our Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce, we had a great week last week. We had our Quinnopoly Business Showcase, and there was a real buzz in the room. I think many of you were there. Business-to-business opportunity, and it made me feel very positive about what we have going on in our economy. We're also working on some public policy issues and how we remove barriers to growth, how we support the growth of our entire region. And as we go into this election season, really pressing the candidates this summer into what is their plan to fix our fiscal stability and economic growth issues going into the next few years. I'll complete with making a little plug for some of our events that we have coming up. On April 25th, we have our annual meeting for the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. Jeffrey Sonnenfeld will be our guest speaker. And then on June 7th, we have the annual meeting for the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. We're going to have Jim Bell, who is the president of NBC Olympics, speaking. So it should be a very interesting topic. This is going to be a great breakfast, and I thank you for having us. And please join our chambers. Many of you are members already, and we're excited to have you, and let's have a great day. Thank you.
I can't say enough about Garrett. I can go a little further about our time at UI together, and some of our coworkers are here. The key account managers are here, and they know that they actually call North Haven because I pushed them so much as the center of the universe. So, and it is to me. So, I see they must have, on their way to Hartford, they must have stopped by because I did say they were on their way to Hartford. But it was great that State Representative Dave Iaccarino and State Senator Len Fasano have stopped by for a few minutes. So let's welcome them. And as you could see from Garrett's enthusiasm, I think he was a wonderful choice, and it's going to be fun to work with him in the days and years to come. So congratulations, Garrett. Now I would like to introduce two of our sponsors, or our two sponsors, I should say. And it's always great. These breakfasts are a great way to have sponsors come in and talk a little bit about themselves, and we always search out for sponsors at each of our breakfasts, so keep that in mind. We typically have two, a spring and a fall, so if you're interested in the future in sponsoring, please give Valerie, the First Selectman's office, a call. And I can't say enough about Valerie and Ellen. Valerie is behind the scenes, but is actually the one who puts the most effort into this. And you'll see a slideshow, and she's the picture taker and everything. So let's give Valerie a round of applause for all the work. You know, it's a lot of fun to have someone doing all the work, and then you come up front, and it's like you're the, you did all the work. But all I do is I come in at the last minute with some notes and just introduce everyone. But Valerie, thank you very much. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first sponsor, Sarah Gaudiano from Chick-fil-A. I can't say enough about Sarah. She's just so full of energy. The Chick-fil-A is such a great organization. So Sarah, come up and talk to us a little bit about Chick-fil-A.
I need a little assistance. Good morning, everyone. I'm technologically challenged, so I need a little assistance. I have some slides that I wanted to show you here. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I would like to just say thank you for the opportunity. We opened in September 2016, so we've only been here about 18 months. Really want to thank the business community here. The town of North Haven, we love this community. First Selectman Frida, we feel so welcomed here. We love being on Universal Drive with the folks that we have there, so big thanks to the town and also to the Chamber of Commerce. I really just wanted to spend a few minutes talking to folks about Chick-fil-A. So many people don't know anything about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is not a chicken business. We're not a fast food restaurant. We truly are in the people business. That's what the founders, the Cathy family, started back in 1946, which I'll talk about. And really, the founder would always say, we could be selling anything. We could be selling any product. We are in the people business. It's not about the chicken. We love our chicken. We have great chicken, but we're really about the people and the connection in the community. So Truett Cathy is the founder of Chick-fil-A. He is now deceased, died a few years ago, but he started it in a little mom and pop grill outside the Atlanta airport in 1946. He grew up with his mom frying chicken. He wanted to get folks in and out of his restaurant because they had to go back to work. So he created this chicken sandwich with some scraps that he got from the airline food. They had the filet. Back then, a breast of chicken wasn't an important part of the bird. He fried it up, and that's how the Chick-fil-A sandwich started in 1960. Started in the first, opened a restaurant in the Greenbrier Shopping Mall in Atlanta in 1967. Chick-fil-A is credited with starting the food court, actually, around the country. And then the first freestanding restaurant, which if you've ever been to our restaurant with a drive-thru, etc., didn't start until 1986. If you look at some stats here, in 2000, Chick-fil-A had $1 billion in sales, which at the time was crazy. 2017, we just went over $9 billion in sales. Chick-fil-A is not a publicly owned company. It's a privately owned company, closed every Sunday. No Chick-fil-A around the country is ever opened on a Sunday. You're never allowed to make money on a Sunday. You can donate chicken on a Sunday. You can pay for your employees on a Sunday, but you can never make $1 on a Sunday. If you did, you would immediately lose your franchise. So Chick-fil-A has enjoyed 50 consecutive years of sales growth, and currently there's 2,200 approximately restaurants around the country. A little bit about Chick-fil-A in the news. We're currently ranked number 7 as far as sales in quick service restaurants, but it's expected to jump up to number 3 behind McDonald's and Starbucks within 2 years. And revenue per restaurant, sales per restaurant, we're ranked number 1 out of all companies. Ranked number 1 in customer satisfaction, considered a top place to work, and we've given away $46 million in Chick-fil-A scholarships. Of note, 2 folks from my restaurant received $2,500 scholarships last year. We have 4 finalists this year. Hopefully all 4 will get scholarships as well. Chick-fil-A, the founder would say people decisions, as I mentioned, are the most important. A little bit about our Chick-fil-A. So we're locally owned and operator. I'm the owner. My husband's here today. We run this as a family business. If you ever come in the restaurant, our kids are usually running around, passing out mints, in charge of the playground, whatever the case may be. They're young. Every Chick-fil-A is locally owned, and every Chick-fil-A that's here in Connecticut is actually a husband and wife team working together in their individual restaurants. There's a requirement to be present and active in the community. Before you are selected as a Chick-fil-A owner, you really have to have a vision for what you want to do in a community. If you came and said, I just want to make money, most likely you would not be selected. That's not really the goal of Chick-fil-A. Approximately 90% of owners around the country only own 1 Chick-fil-A, and about 1 in 3 Chick-fil-A owners have no experience in a Chick-fil-A. That would include myself. I came from a military background in government service, have no restaurant experience before I came to own this Chick-fil-A. So Chick-fil-A, again, we're about more than selling chicken. These are quotes that Truett Cathy had. But just talking a little bit about my vision, our vision in our restaurant in North Haven. So we really strive to be an employer of choice. We really strive to grow our employees. We don't hire for your competency as far as I can run a register. We really hire for character. We're looking for folks that have the character and the servant's heart and have a desire to serve the people that we serve. And we move on from there. So we really do hire for that character and for chemistry with our business. We talk a lot in our business about being a hospitality professional as opposed to a fast food worker and what that looks like. Our staff would hear that drilled into them time and time again, and we hope that our leadership exemplifies that in the restaurant. If you've been in the restaurant, you know I clear a lot of trays, I'm sweeping floors. I'm not above doing any of that because I have an expectation that our team does that as well. We give a lot of training opportunities. We send our folks to the corporate office. Most fast food workers don't get a chance to fly down and attend a Ritz-Carlton training on hospitality or attend some corporate training, go to another restaurant and learn from some experts there. So we really try to do that. And like I said, the scholarships. We desire to be the restaurant of choice here in North Haven and the surrounding area, of course. We're working on our drive-through. If you come starting now and moving forward, we're not using the speaker boxes. We're outside face-to-face ordering for that personal contact. We use iPads. We're using some of the latest technology in quick service restaurants, so we're excited about that. We have monthly family nights in our restaurant, and if you have kids or know folks with kids, these are really fun. It's the last Thursday of every month from 5:30 to 7. We're going to do a Touch a Truck event, and the town is coming out. They're going to bring the K-9 unit and some of the different public works vehicles, and so the kids love that. So come out and support that if you'd like to. Little contact information if there's something that is of interest of you. If you know someone who's looking for work, there's our recruitment website. Our Facebook page has all of our information. And then if you're just interested in Chick-fil-A, feel free to contact me. I didn't talk about it. The table outside obviously has it. We cater. We currently cater to several of the college teams. We cater to every single university in New Haven, the surrounding area, hospitals, offices. We have a full catering menu, so feel free to check us out online or, again, just contact me directly. And in front of you should have a free sandwich card. Please come and use that in the restaurant. And if you didn't drop your business card, we're going to be giving away some free catering, choosing some folks for that to bring 3 offices surprises. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sarah. What energy. Isn't that great? And one of my disappointments, and it's not about Chick-fil-A, is wanting a Chick-fil-A on a Sunday and driving by and finding out that it's closed. So, but Sarah's so great to the community. It's amazing how much they contribute and provide sandwiches to many different functions. So Sarah, thank you very much. Mark Candido, that's a hard act to follow. Mark is Vice President and Regional Director for Newtown Savings Bank. Mark, could you come up and say something?
Rich is correct. That's a hard act to follow. Great energy for this time of the morning. And speaking to you outside, I said, what a wonderful person and personality. And got a great company. I love that very simple slogan of, we're in the people business. How much more direct can you get? How much more thought can you put into something so simple? It'd be great to adapt that and then take it to its fullest extent. Anyway, banker, proud to be here. I love North Haven. Lived here for 30 years. Mike Frieda does a great job. I think all the first selectmen prior to Mike also did a pretty good job, but Tony Rosigno was my cousin. Mike's one step ahead of Tony, but Tony's a great guy. Great guy. Of course, Mike's younger and more energy. Tony and I are getting old at the same time. Above and beyond that, it's a thrill for Newtown Savings Bank to sponsor this terrific program. Mike's a great guy, and we're proud to be a part of it. Just a quick little sales pitch, because obviously that's part of the intent of spreading the word about why you support these functions and trying to get some business. We're thrilled to be here, as I've reiterated twice. Banks are banks, products are products. To be honest with you, and I'm sure you've all realized it, the most you get out of a good service of any company is the people that work in the company. I can say from myself, which I'm not a bragger, but for myself, Tony Rossley and Rick DeMeo, who all live in North Haven, we are in the people business. We believe in it. There's many times we've been accused of being too friendly and too close to people. Not at Newtown Savings, but another bank that I won't mention. We were told that you spend too much time with your customers. You should get them out quicker. What a wonderful thing to hear from a $2 billion bank. In any event, it's the people that are the service, and the people are what make the bank. Two great guys out there, terrific bank. I have to say one last thing. If you haven't done it, I got here a few minutes early intentionally. Go straight out this driveway, go up to the Amazon driveway directly across the street. I said, they must be relocating Kennedy Airport here. I cannot believe the work that's going on. The scope and size of the project is incredible. That, among everything else that you've accomplished, Mike, is a wonderful accomplishment for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was great. I would also like to thank Fantasia. I mean, they've been doing this now for us for a few years, and I just think it's great. The service we get and the food has been wonderful. So let's give a round of applause for Fantasia. Now I would like to introduce Alyssa DeJong. Alyssa and I have known each other now for 5 or 6 years, and you know, typically researchers can be a little, you know, maybe not boring, but Alyssa really has a way of taking her research and making it fun, and sometimes her presentations have been based on songs by the Rolling Stones and other artists, and so I think you're going to be surprised, and not only about how well she presents, but also about some of the numbers she's come up with. And I read the slides last night, and it was interesting how North Haven and Connecticut are trending right now. So without further ado, Alyssa, Vice President of Research at the Connecticut Economic Resource Center.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Richard, for that wonderful introduction. I'm not boring. I hope I can live up to that. I'll do my best. Just a little bit about CERC. In case you don't know us, we are up the road in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and we've worked with North Haven on a few different projects over the years, looking at some feasibility studies, trying to figure out, you know, what the impact on the town would be once Quinnipiac created their North Haven campus here. And so we've just been so pleased to partner with you on a few different projects. And we also work with regions and with also different businesses looking for different strategies and information. So what I'm going to do today is talk very broadly about some trends that are happening globally, and then also some industry trends that are happening nationwide, and then focus on how that's impacting both Connecticut as well as North Haven. And we'll talk about some of those exciting changes happening in North Haven as well. So I brought a little bit of data. I'll explain it to you. If you can't see all the numbers in the back, that's okay. You'll get the overall trend and information from my explanation. So what I have brought here is some data on countries and their percentages of overall world GDP. And so the U.S. Takes care of those bars all the way over there on the left. So the U.S. is still kind of the largest economy in the world. Back in 2005, which is that lighter colored bar, we were at about 27% of world GDP. And now in 2015, we're just under 0.25% of world GDP. So why is that shifting a little bit? It's because of China's economy and how they've been increasing so much. So that's that difference you'll see right next to those large US bars. You'll see China's bars there. In 2005, China was only about 4% of world GDP, and now they're up to about 15%. So that's really where the big shift has taken place. And it's not surprising, of course, as well. So that looked at what has happened in the past. This data I've brought is showing some projections for 2018. And so the world as a whole is actually projected to see some pretty decent, moderate economic growth this year and into next year. In terms of economies, there's really no country that's faltering, so much. Last year I was talking about Brexit, and we were talking about the UK and a lot of issues going on there. We were talking about some issues happening in Asia. But right now, barring any, major political crisis, the world output estimates are relatively strong, just about under 4% for this year. The U.S. as a whole is just over 2.5% in terms of what we're expecting for this year. Now, we know about the U.S. tax reform bill that just went into effect earlier this year, and we're expecting that that's going to provide a slight lift to the overall national economy this year, and going in through most of this year. What the tax reform is going to do is lower rates on corporate as well as personal income, and so that should, I say should because we don't exactly know what's going to happen, but analysts are predicting that these reduced income rates are going to increase business investment and also consumer consumption during this year. However, we're expecting that there's going to be a slight dip later in the year. Now, we know that the Federal Reserve Bank just voted to start increasing rates, so we're going to see an interest rates starting to tick up very consistently over the next several years. And the Federal Reserve Bank is sending a signal that the economy is doing fairly well, inflation is fairly low, and so that is a reason to try to bump up interest rates. And by giving a lot of markets a lot of lead time, that should hopefully keep things in check and not spook too many people and not spook investors. So now what I'd like to do is talk about a few different industries and some kind of larger industry trends. And I'm focusing on some industries that we know have a real presence in Connecticut, and then we'll look at some that really have a strong presence in North Haven as well. So one is property and casualty insurance. And so the insurance industry is still very strong in Connecticut. Even though we've seen some employee decreases in that industry, it's still a main driver in the state. But what's happening in this industry is that we're seeing some shifting from policies that are written for individuals more towards policy written for commercial lines. And that's because we're seeing increases in what's called the sharing economy. You're hearing about more people maybe not necessarily owning a car, but maybe renting a car when they want to take longer trips and things like that. And then also, we're starting to hear more things about driverless cars. And so since, the insurance industry needs a number of years in order to adapt to these types of things, there will eventually become a change where people may not need individual car policies if that becomes more mainstream. So these are things that the insurance industry is working on in terms of adapting. Since there are fewer homeowners and more renters, that also affects the types of policies that need to be issued. Now, in terms of retail, we're also seeing a major overhaul in the retail industry, more towards an experience. So I know that I don't want to spend my time kind of going all over the state so I can pick up some, paper towels and some diapers. I would prefer that they just get delivered to my doorstep and I can just bring them in and not really worry about it. So what's making me go to a retail store? Well, it's more for an experience. I'm going to go and have some time either to look at the clothes, and you're hearing about these retail stores that are having like wine and cheese parties while you shop. So I don't typically have as much time for that right now since I have a 2-year-old, but in a hypothetical world, that sounds very lovely. And so the retail stores are doing more of these experiences that are drawing people into the stores and then hopefully buying things as well. So now because of the increase in online and e-commerce, that's really shifting up the retail stores. And because of online stores now Really focusing on having fast shipping and goods getting delivered to your door so quickly. The retail stores really do have to compete with that, and so the real successful retail stores are going to be ones that can kind of bridge this experience with getting goods to their customers very quickly. Now, warehousing, of course, is because of what's happening with e-commerce, and we're seeing that right here in North Haven as well. The retail industry and the warehousing industry are really changing very dramatically. So, in terms of warehousing trends, we're seeing that rapid delivery. The consumers are really demanding that type of thing. And now, instead of warehouses delivering big pallets of the same type of good to businesses, they're actually sending very small boxes of the most random assortment of things right directly to the customer. And so that really requires companies that are in these businesses to be closer to their suppliers, closer to their customers, and we're seeing that effect right here in North Haven as well. In terms of financial services, again, a very big driver here in Connecticut, it's experiencing some very larger industry trends. In terms of international expansion, there's a real big possibility for this industry to grow quite rapidly because more and more people across the world are now increasing their quality of life and have enough money to think about things like financial services. But what we're seeing in the U.S. is that more and more customers are kind of foregoing the need to have a relationship with a broker and are looking for having products that are easy to navigate online and looking for, again, the cheapest price. And so that's really something that the financial services industry is trying to deal with. How do we create that efficient experience, especially for folks in the U.S., but also trying to develop these markets overseas. In terms of manufacturing, automation has been happening for generations, but it continues to do so and at a much larger pace. And now we're not just seeing large manufacturing companies take advantage of automation, we're seeing the small and mid-sized manufacturers do the same. And so this is changing the type of worker that is needed in so many manufacturing companies. Not necessarily an assembly line producer, but we need folks who are programmers and people who can fix the robots that are on the assembly lines and things like that. So it really has a lot of workforce implications, and we're seeing that in Connecticut as well. And then also construction is seeing a little bit of slow growth. There's been a lot of increases in prices of commodities, and also the effect of the tariffs are really affecting the construction industry as well, and some manufacturing industries too. But there have been a lot of technology advancements in the construction industry in terms of, especially with drones and with visualization software, the construction industry has really been able to elevate and make their products a lot more efficient. And another industry that's very strong in Connecticut as well as North Haven is healthcare. And of course, trying to keep the cost of healthcare down while medical procedures, the complexity of medical procedures, which continues to grow, and keep striking that balance is something that is really affecting the healthcare industry. What's really interesting about Connecticut is we have not only the healthcare providers, but also the insurance companies and all the payment systems are right here in the state, and so there are some committees working on thinking about how to pull all of those pieces together. Now what I'm going to do is, now that we've thought about some of these overall industry trends, is I wanted to bring some data on the state for you, so you can look at that. And so we've got here employment change. This is the most recent employment change for the state between 2016 and 2017. And we had 6 industries that are on the plus side of the diagram, and 4 industry sectors on the negative side. So we saw increases in financial activities, education and health services, professional and business services, what's called other services. It's a nice miscellaneous term that us analysts like to use. That's a catch-all for everything else. And we saw a little bit of an increase in construction as well as manufacturing. And then we had some other industries seeing a bit of a decrease. in terms of median household income, we're finally seeing an increase in income. So back in 2010, it was actually pretty flat, and we actually saw a decrease in income during that last recession around the 2008-2009 timeframe. And then you'll see, if you just kind of look at this trend line, there was a part where it was quite flat and quite stable. So we saw a big decrease during the recession, income stayed flat for a few years, and now they're starting to tick up again. And so that is a good sign for the economy that people are generally seeing an increase in household income, which means that they'll have more disposable income for other purchases and savings as well. In terms of population by race, this is showing data back before the recession. So that first bar is 2007, and then each bar shows a different year through 2016. A fairly homogeneous population, although we are starting to see some increases in diversity in the state. In terms of native versus foreign-born, this is kind of an interesting thing to note, because I'll show you next. We'll look at population changes and where they're coming from, and the real the help to Connecticut's population has been immigration. And so the share of native population versus foreign-born population, it's the share that's foreign-born is increasing and has been for a number of years. And that's really an important point to think about in terms of workforce, in terms of consumers, and what your markets may be. And it's a very important concept that will continue to grow. In terms of population by age, I have this for North Haven as well, but this just shows the population that continues to age, or maybe we should say we continue to mature and get wiser. And so we have about 38% of Connecticut's population is over the age of 50, but we have 31%, so just about a third of our population is under the age of 25. And so the students, school age, college populations, still a substantial share of our overall population. So this is where things kind of get a little interesting, and you may not have seen this type of data before, but it shows the resident population in Connecticut. Over the past 4 years, Connecticut's population has been declining. And we are one of 3 states that has seen population declines over the past couple of years. And so that really does have implications for consumer demand and also budget issues that we know that the state has been struggling with. But there is, there is some hope, of course, in terms of our components of population change. The bar I have on the left shows the change in population by the different component. We have births, deaths, international migration, and then domestic migration. And so those gold bars on the left show what was happening before the recession, and then that rust color shows what was happening after the recession between 2013 and 2016. So the net domestic migration, so that's the people who are moving to other states, has been negative before the recession as well as after. Yes, people are moving to Florida, but they're moving to other neighboring states as well. They're moving to Massachusetts, they're moving to New York. That's the largest share of where people are moving to, and probably in search for a job and things like that. But you'll see there that bucket that shows net international migration, it's been positive, and it's been positive for a while. And so again, that's a real opportunity for Connecticut and for all the regions to take advantage of. In terms of housing permits, I did kind of mention it earlier on when we were thinking about the insurance industry, and we're seeing more and more renters coming on board, a much larger increase of renters than homeowners than we've seen in recent past. And we can see that in the housing permit data as well. So if you look at each year, that share of the bar that's blue, that shows us the housing permits of units that are multi-units. So it could either be a condo or it could be an apartment building. And so that share has really been increasing quite dramatically in the state, and it continues to do so. And so that's, that is providing more opportunities for people who don't necessarily want to own a home, and so that's good. It's providing a lot of different housing opportunities for our residents. Okay, now I'm just going to end up by showing a couple of slides on North Haven. This shows population by age, and the first bar on the left shows 2010 information, and then it shows every year through 2016, which is the latest year of data that we have. What I thought was kind of interesting is that the share of the population that's relatively younger is actually increasing a little bit. And your share of population, I mean, you still have a relatively older population, but it's shrinking a little bit relative to the younger population. And so I think that's kind of showing the effects of what's been moving in and what's really been growing in the town. You're seeing those effects in the population data. Same thing is happening in the household income data. You're seeing that more and more incomes, relatively wealthy and well-off incomes are moving into North Haven as well. And that, of course, extends over to education and education attainment, and the effects of Quinnipiac on this region are definitely being felt in terms of education attainment that we're seeing. Of course, we're seeing so many different business changes here in North Haven with Amazon moving in, and a number of different restaurants coming in, renovating, as well as moving in, and you're seeing that because there's a really increased energy here in the town, and taking advantage of all that extra consumer demand. So, again, in conclusion, we've got the projections for the global and the national economic growth are quite positive, but the estimate for Connecticut's economic performance for this year is a bit more modest than the nation. And so we have these overall industry trends, too, that are affecting both Connecticut and North Haven. But North Haven is continuing to see some positive effects from all the business and the institution expansions, and, I expect that it'll continue to do so. Great. Thank you.
So we have a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions for Alyssa?
Alyssa, you mentioned there were 3 states that are losing population. I was wondering what the other 2 are. Are they in this area? Or are they?
They are not. It's actually there's one I believe in. I think it's Maine, and then there were some in very northwest, like North Dakota and things like that. Yeah, sure. Great. If you, sure.
What are the expected effects of Amazon coming here on small businesses?
On small businesses. I think it would depend on what type of industry. So the question was, what's the effect of Amazon on small businesses? So it could, in terms of increased traffic patterns and just people coming in and out of the area, there could be a real benefit to retail, to other kind of service type businesses as well. So just bringing more and more people in and out will probably be a good thing. There could be, depending on what the industry is, there could be some other effects as well. But I would say initially, I think the overall impact will be quite positive.
I would like to build on that, too, because your question is very important. It's something we really think about. And as the medical epicenter on State Street started to fill out, the small businesses along State Street really found about a 20 to 25% increase. So we're expecting the same effect on Northern Washington Avenue and North Haven as a whole with something as large as Amazon. And it's up to us to really look for recruiting small businesses and other things that are going to be important to the workers of Amazon and what they might like. And we're expecting a younger generation, so younger themed businesses, and as well as in general everything. Mm-hmm. So that was anything but boring.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much. I did. I should have used dry or something like that. But Alyssa does a great job, and anytime you get a chance to see her, check the Connecticut Economic Resource Center website, and you'll see that she does presentations year-round. And so if you have a chance, it would be great for you to go see those, because she does many different subjects. Now what I'd like to do, moving right along on the program, I'd like to introduce Mike Frida, our first selectman. Mike, you can't say enough about the effort that Mike puts into economic development as well as everything else. And he's been a great leader. He is tireless, really tireless, in his pursuit to increase the top line revenue through responsible economic and housing development. I think we've all seen the benefits of that and the fruits of his labor. And I think it's safe to say that, and Garrett alluded to this, the crowning achievement of being able to recruit Amazon to the old Pratt & Whitney site. And it is a marathon. It was 8 years in the making, between negotiations with the property owner initially to tear down the old building, putting in a tax incentive program, which was instrumental in getting Amazon here, and then just his negotiation skills from his previous work when he owned his own business. So Mike, please come up and talk to us a little bit about what's happening in North Haven.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors and Alyssa, great presentation. We enjoy working with CERC. It's been a great partnership. You know, relationships and friendships are very, very important, and I'm very grateful to the business community here in North Haven for everything that you've done for our great community in terms of providing goods and services, creating jobs, and really helping us be on the map, not only at a regional level, but also at a state level. You know, I've been very fortunate in life. I've had a lot of friendships and relationships in my business career. Here in my career in municipal government, a lot of personal friendships, and I'm delighted today to welcome my friend Jim Colburn here. He came up from Larchmont, New York. We met in the first grade together. We've been lifelong friends, so let's give him a round of applause for being here. And on a side note, my other childhood friend, John Sikorsky, who's a local business in the area, he and Jim were teammates on a Little League team that beat us for a championship one year. So let's take a look at the year in review here in North Haven. It's been a year that has captured successes. It's been a year that has presented us with many opportunities, and it continues to be a year that has significant challenges. Let's take a look at some of the success stories. 6 years ago, we had a vision. It was a powerful vision that emerged as an image in my mind on what was largely a vacant site on the corner of State and Divine Street. We had a vision to create a medical epicenter, to provide services for people in need. And we are delighted that 6 years later, this Divine and State Street Medical Epicenter has manifested itself into a fully operational area that has some very significant businesses, medical services, and industries that are critically important to North Haven. This is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of how a vision can turn into a reality with focus, dedication, hard work, and perseverance. And at the cornerstone of this epicenter is Yale New Haven Hospital. These are some of the businesses that are part of this medical epicenter. There are services such as a cardiologist facility, an urgent care center, and we are working very closely with the hospital to bring in more musculoskeletal services. And about 1.5 to 2 years ago, we brought in a Smilo Cancer Research Center. And the poignant aspect of that is I've had a couple of close friends of mine that are using that service. And it's sort of a painful irony to say that, but it just is an indication and an illustration as to how important these services are to our great town and the surrounding areas. The final component to this medical epicenter is this 20,000 square foot building that we've been working on with Yale New Haven for quite some time. And what's happened here is the urgent care center has moved there, and we're moving in more medical services on 2 Divine Street as we continue to grow and expand with these wonderful services here in town. 297 State Street was an example of how a large business back before I even took office, Northeast Graphics, created a lot of synergies for the smaller businesses. The irony of this is when I took office, this 397,000 square foot building was vacant. Northeast Graphics had gone out of business. I had a very good friend of mine before I took office that owned a deli on the corner of Broadway and Church Street. When this business went out, Northeast Graphics, back in 2007, 2008, I was over his house for New Year's Eve one year, and he said that his business had to close because that business was his largest customer. Every day, the lunches, the breakfast, the services, the sandwiches, every day his business was booming as a result of the 400 jobs that were there. Once that company went out, he went out of business. So we were on a mission back when I took office in 2009. And today, here in 2018, we now see 3 very significant businesses that have fully occupied the 397,000 square feet. There's about 350 jobs there, and this building has been fully renovated back with job creation, with 3 new companies there, and with an enhanced value from a tax revenue standpoint for the town of North Haven. This is an example of how to turn a disappointment into a success. So 33 Styles was a trucking company that went out of business nationally. 140,000 square feet of space vacant in North Haven. So I met with the CEO of Calaire Properties. The irony here is they were right next door to where my offices were in Massachusetts when I was CEO of my company. So we had a lot in common. This was a very carefully orchestrated business transaction. In order for them to buy this building, they needed us to work and simplify the regulatory processes in municipal government to ensure that we can get a tenant there, and that tenant is BYK Industries. We not only were able to work them through the regulatory processes of municipal government, they walked away after working with us delighted. They then signed a deal with Calaire. Calaire bought the building, and now we have a building that's being retrofitted and a business, BYK, which is in Wallingford, by the way. They're expanding into North Haven. And folks, the notion of businesses expanding, not taking a business from one municipality and putting it into another, an expansion of a great company in Wallingford, adding now 140,000 square feet into North Haven with about 100 jobs coming into North Haven, new jobs, I think is very significant. BYK is a company like BASF. They make the ingredients that other companies use. And one of their biggest customers is Sherwin-Williams, a national company, of course. So that 33 Styles is a great success story here in town. Now, on the smaller business side, when we look at some of the retail plazas, as Alyssa mentioned, retail is going through a transformation. And what we're seeing even on the retail side is some of the medical services now are coming into the plazas. And this Dr. Smile Family Dental has been a great success story down at Universal Drive, filling out space that was vacant there for us for quite some time. On the food side, it seems like this business continues to boom. And by booming, I mean that the people that come in at all hours of the day, this is a new, unique restaurant, Inferno Pizza, that has been a great success story right next door to where I just mentioned, down at Universal Drive. They are delighted to be here in North Haven. And when we look at these retail plazas that across the country are becoming vacant, we're looking to get new and unique businesses that are interested in town, work with them to get them in here. And this is another example, this Lumai Asian Fusion. This has been very successful right in the Barnes & Noble side, and that populated some space, about 2,000 square feet that had been vacant, and now there's a lot of clientele going in there. You heard from Sarah from Chick-fil-A. This is a company that has embedded themselves in a very positive way into our community, and we're very grateful. They're everywhere. They're on the green, they're here today, they're sponsoring a lot of events. They've really become a very valuable part of our business community. What sort of flew under the radar screen was about 5 years ago, we started working with Larry Moon, the CEO of C. Coles. They were leaving New Haven. They were in a building there from probably the late 1800s or the early 1900s. And as we moved them into the Marlin building, which had gone out of business in 2009 and early 2010, we were able to not only capture C. Coles in North Haven, but they had a manufacturing division in Massachusetts, Carlin Combustion, that makes a lot of high-end items that are in the heating industry, and they do an awful lot with a lot of the services that they offer. So we were able to not only integrate them into 146,000 square feet on McKenna Drive, but also bring in an additional manufacturer from Massachusetts that had been separate in a separate state. And that now is fully integrated into C. Coles. Their divisions include a lighting division, industrial commercial. They do an automotive division. They sell plastics and parts to automotive companies and automotive stores, and they've been a very successful business for over 150 years. This Clintonville Manor was a nursing home on Route 22. They went out of business in 2010 as the costs were escalating and the Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements were declining. So I'm delighted to report that there will be moving in here, which is now vacant land. You see that heavy construction truck there. They're starting to assemble the site. And we will now have a 104-unit senior assistant living facility that will be built on that site. And that is, for lack of a better way to describe it, like a hotel for seniors who can no longer live on their own. It's a facility that will have some amenities, perhaps a little store, believe it or not, a little pub where they could serve the seniors wine and beer. There could be a little hairdresser in there, a little store, and the components of this are like if you travel and you go into a fine hotel, their rooms are like wonderful hotel rooms. And there's community rooms where the seniors can engage with each other. So we're delighted about that. This is an example of about 13,000 square feet. Restaurant went out a couple of years ago, and this is a new restaurant we have going in there. It's a hand-tag Asian buffet restaurant, and they're very successful in other parts of the region. So we'll see how that goes, but the most important thing, populating vacant space. This was a dilemma for years. Taco Bell, KFC. There was a situation here where Stop & Shop owns this. They were leasing it to Taco Bell and KFC. So I've been meeting with the Stop & Shop real estate people, and we worked out a concept where they were going to buy out the lease. Even though the businesses were no longer there, they were still paying a significant amount of money every month. So part of what we do in my office is to come up with concepts, ideas, and positions that we present to the business community, and the results of all of that are that there's going to be a new business coming in. It's very successful in another city. They're expanding, and it's called Bagelicious, and we're excited about that. This was an empty space here. We brought Verizon Wireless in, and we work very closely with the owner of that building. Car dealerships, believe it or not, are becoming critically important to the state of Connecticut. They're critically important because they pay a lot of taxes to the community. They create jobs that start at 80 to 85,000 and up, and the traditional mechanic of the past is now a technology expert. The training and the expertise that these service technicians provide, this is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of a vacant property, a building that had been sold. We turned it into a Gengris Volvo, and it's been very successful here in town. And behind the scenes, with Gateway Community College here, we work closely with President Paul Brody with their automotive facility here in North Haven, and I've been a guest speaker there, speaking with their people who want to become service technicians. This industry is an example of people that may not want to go to a 4-year program or even a postgraduate program, that want to take up a trade that's critically important, that is a high-paying trade, and this industry offers that. And on the heels of that, there'll be a new Land Rover dealership coming to what had been an empty site at 505 Washington Avenue. This is a high-end car dealership. Again, great tax revenue for the town, job creations, 80, 85,000, over $100,000 a year. And also, these dealerships bring in an affluent level of people into our town that potentially could use other services in terms of shopping and other services that North Haven offers. This was an interesting concept. This is a company I met with, and we put them in Republic Drive in North Haven, off of Sackett Point Road. This is a concept. This company makes the implants, the dentures, the items that people go to dentists and orthodontic surgeons for. They're behind the scenes producing the products. So if someone needs an implant, they work with the local dentist to get the x-ray and create through the images, create the implants, the gums, whatever it may be. And now we've been able to connect them with local dentists to help create even more synergies. Again, an area that had been vacant, 37 new jobs into North Haven. We've spoken about Amazon right across the street, ladies and gentlemen. You see emerging from the ground the structure. This will start out at roughly 1,500 to 800 jobs, 1,500 to 1,800, and it will manifest itself into 3,000 jobs fully up and running. And this will be a 1.2 million square foot facility nestled in the back at the site of the former Pratt & Whitney. Opportunities. Working closely with the DOT on bringing a train station into North Haven. This will be in the area of Devine Street and Stiles. We're still trying to determine the location. The design phase, the state, the DOT, even Commissioner Rediker, whom I met with last month, are fully committed to this project. On the flip side, because the state transportation fund is essentially broke with no money, the final component to this will be, how is it going to be funded? So we're, to use a baseball analogy, in the on-deck circle right now, swinging a weighted bat, waiting for the pitcher to complete their warm-up, and it could be a while, but we'll see. But the state is fully committed to us on that. 333 State Street will be the future site of the Greater New Haven Transit District. This is a district and an institution that will provide transportation services for the elderly and for the disabled. And this is an incendiary catalyst to other economic development growth in the back of the building on the east side of 333 State Street. These buildings off to the left are being renovated, and within the next 60 days, we're hoping we'll have an announcement in terms of new businesses coming in to those renovated buildings that have been vacant for at least a decade. The Cinemark story has been a resounding success. In the background of where Chick-fil-A is, this will also, I'm working with them actually as we speak, they're in town this week, and we're really working to fill out these 3 pad sites. If you drive by there on Universal Drive, you'll see it beautifully landscaped with the Cinemark in the back, Chick-fil-A in the front, and the beautiful manicured grassy area is the future of 3 additional either retailers or restaurants that will be going there. Ladies and gentlemen, this will happen. And I am not that pleased that it's taken this long, but it is going to happen. That I guarantee you. We will have 3 new businesses on that site, and plans are being made right now in terms of identifying whom they will be. This historic house was the site of a printing company back in the 60s and 70s. This is owned by Edible Arrangements. This will be renovated, and there'll be a new financial services business going in there. Alyssa talked about the financial services industry. This is the future site of a new financial services company that will be coming to North Haven. 2 years ago, we finally found a person that was willing to purchase the North Haven Shopping Center. About $5 to $6 million worth of improvements have been made here as we speak, and that's continuing. This is about 50% occupied right now, and you're going to see and hear in the next 60 days new businesses that we'll be announcing that will be coming in to fill out that plaza. I anticipate by either the end of this year or early next year, this will be 100% fully occupied. Town Fair Tire, this is something that goes under the category of focus and determination, folks. This is a challenge right now. And in fairness to Town Fair Tire, they have the lease at the end of the Stop and Shop Plaza, and they don't necessarily want to start construction costs on the site of the old rustic oak at the same time that they're paying for the lease at the end of the plaza. So we'll be talking to them this week, and we will have a start date when the construction will start on the Town Fair Tire. Unfortunately, we lost a restaurant in town, and this is an example of this was a restaurant at Long Wharf in New Haven for years, and prior to that had been an institution in the New Haven area. We worked with the owner 5 years ago, spent almost a year on this project, brought them into the site of the old Blockbuster Video, and unfortunately, he left. So we have 2 or 3 opportunities here, and we're hoping to have an announcement on that probably in the early summer. 425 Washington Avenue is right across the street. It's the front property of where Amazon's going in the back. I'm going to give you some inside baseball here. This is a project that I'd like to see a hotel there. And we're working with a hotel group and the Rabinas who own the property to see if we can deliver a hotel here within the next couple of years. I think with Amazon on the back, Quinnipiac University on the east side, I think it would be a big hit here to have an upper scale hotel. And in fairness to the hotel we have, Best Western, they are our partner on this project because they have 20 other brands in their portfolio. So my goal was to not create setting up a hotel at the expense of another, trying to find a partner that had multiple hotels working with an existing business to expand with another brand here in town. 447 Washington Avenue, a little bit up the, right around up the street there to the north. This will be the future site of apartments and mixed use with retail on the bottom on Washington Avenue, part of a major project. This has been vacant for quite some time, and I'm pleased that the approvals have been given, and we're working with the owners and the future owner to move this project forward. This is an example of another thing that we do, identifying tired plazas, trying to find buyers for them to renovate them. And we have a gentleman that's, who owns a lot of businesses in the state, made an offer on this plaza. We're hoping they accept it. If it's accepted, that will be fully renovated within a few years. This is an example of a plaza from the 60s that someone just bought this, and this will be renovated with a new business coming into this plaza at 495 Washington. 497 Washington, this has been purchased. So we're waiting to see what the outcome of this is going to be. This is on the west side of Washington Avenue, It's the site of the old package store and the old seafood store. Kimberly Plaza's just been purchased, where Dino's Restaurant is. And this is an example of another area that has been in town for years and years, this plaza, and we're hoping that some renovation and some aesthetic enhancements happen at Kimberly Plaza at 540 Washington. 585 Washington Avenue, the site of the old Sips Coffee Shop. This is now up for sale. As soon as I saw this up for sale, I looked at that as great news, because we had someone that wanted to buy it years ago, but the owner didn't want to sell it. So I called the commercial real estate broker. We want a business there, and we've identified the business. The broker sent a portfolio to the business, and we're working to get that business in here, and if we can, it will be a wonderful new, exciting restaurant here in North Haven. Challenges. There's always challenges, ladies and gentlemen. 238 Quinnipiac Avenue. For years, it's a challenge. It's a site that will be part of a larger development project. Vic's is over there. There's a pizza place over there, and that's something that's really on our radar screen. That has to happen, and it will happen sooner or later. 102 Middletown, the entrance, the gateway into North Haven. This is a project where the front part of this, where the old gas tanks were, are contaminated. And under the Connecticut Transfer Act, the owner can't sell this without remediation being done. And the problem is remediation is very costly. But I found someone that has made an offer on this. So we'll see what the outcome is. Sports Authority, national retailer, filing bankruptcy. 50,000 square feet in North Haven. We're working with National Realty to try to either find one new retailer or subdivide this into two new retailers. Work in progress, definitely a challenge. Another challenge that we're faced with in municipalities, Toys R Us, Babies R Us, $5 billion worth of debt. Can't recover from it. Christmas season really fell flat. The Star Wars figures that they wanted to sell didn't really resonate with the public. Riddled with debt, closing stores, close to Chapter 7 liquidation, and this is a challenge for us trying to find a replacement. I know what I'd like, a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods. We're on a campaign. We're trying. We're pushing. We are relentless on it, and we'll see what the outcome is. This is another challenge, the former Otis Spunkmeyer. VOC contamination in the ground. We have people make an offer on this, but under the Connecticut Transfer Act, it can't be sold until it's remediated. So this is on our radar screen and a tremendous challenge. Retro Fitness, 4 years ago, we worked to get them in there. They were part of the community. Financial problems, they went out of business. Another challenge. This is a challenge that every day I think about. Every single day. The produce store, ladies and gentlemen, didn't want to leave North Haven, but they needed an expansion. They needed some renovation. They needed the owner to put some money into a tired plaza or a tired area. It didn't happen. So what happens? They move up the street right over the North Haven line in a brand new facility, a resounding success in Wallingford. Now, I'm happy for my friend Mayor Bill Dickinson, but we should have never lost this. We should have never lost it. So we're working with the real estate agent on this to try to find a suitable replacement. This reminds me in my baseball career getting hit by a pitch. And the welt is still there on the side of my arm. And as the days and weeks go by, the welt goes from red to purple and black and blue. That's how I feel about this site. Now, this is another situation, the old Donatos, okay? Another situation. The good news here is we have a great relationship with the owner of the building. The bad news is we can't find anybody that wants to go there and commit to a very long-term lease at a very robust rent structure. And the reason is this building has to be taken down. And the owner is willing to build a new building, to retrofit it for whatever wants to go in there. However, he needs a long-term commitment. And that long-term commitment has to have a rent structure that will allow him to recoup the construction costs of building the new building. So I'm optimistic on this, but it's another pitch I was hit by on the other side. So we're going to get that done. So what's the future outlook? Where are we going? What's going to happen here in North Haven? I'm going to tell you right now, because it's a fact. There will be continued new businesses coming to town. And you might say, well, Mike, how do you know that? Because I'm involved personally with every single project that's going on in the town right now. There will be continued top-line grand list growth. At a time when municipalities are struggling growing the grand list, that is critical. And as part of that, there will be continued job creation here in town. And North Haven will continue to be a driving factor for the greater New Haven region's growth, and as is in the case of Amazon, sends a very powerful message at the state level that Connecticut and the greater New Haven region is open for business and we're business friendly. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, we can see how passionate Mike is about North Haven and all the work that goes into top line revenue generation and all the great work he's done. Any questions for Mike at this point?
So, Mike, thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. I mean, it's just so impressive to see what's going on, especially on this particular strip. This question has nothing to do with economic development. My wife would beat me if I didn't ask it and didn't have an answer for it when I got home this evening. What's the status of the new Veterans Memorial that's going to be on the green?
The green. That's a great question. So, what this question is about is an initiative that we are moving forward with in the town. I had this thought about 2 years ago that if we look at the North Haven Green and look at the monuments and memorials, they go up to the Vietnam War. So our goal was to create a memorial that honored post-Vietnam veterans from North Haven. So we are racing against the clock right now. We are working with the architect. We have all of the people who qualify, who've served in the post-Vietnam campaigns, of which I think there's about 13 from April of 1975 to the present. And the plan is to unveil the memorial on Memorial Day this year, which will be Saturday, May 25th or 6th, I believe. That's the plan right now. And we're really moving forward very, very aggressively to meet that plan. I hope that answers the question. All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate your attendance today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Before you all leave, I want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, the presentations will be on the North Haven Economic Development website. So Alyssa's and Mike's presentations will be there, as well as many past presentations. The other important thing I'd like you to take a minute before you leave is there are surveys on the table. Please complete those surveys. They're very important to us. They do not go right immediately in the trash because we use them to determine our next breakfast. And it's helpful to know what the group is interested in. So please take a minute to fill those out, and we'll look to prepare for a fall breakfast, and as we've done in the past, do a spring and a fall breakfast. I would like, I think it was great. Alyssa, thank you very much for your great presentation. Mike's presentation was awesome. And thank you to our sponsors, Chick-fil-A, Newtown Savings, and of course, Fantasia. So let's give a round of applause for everyone today. And thank you very much. Have a great day.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the Town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.